more to that, I was 29 and diagnosed with premature ovarian failure, which that's a nice way of saying menopause. To be 29 and in menopause, that's tough, man. And I identified with the women of the Bible who were crying out to the Lord for their barrenness, and they just desperately, Hannah just desperately wanted a baby. And I'd been really open with my health struggles to that point, but this was so different. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I didn't want it to be real. I didn't want to be dealing with this. I just wanted to hide. And I actually should have hidden. Like, we went away on a family holiday with everyone, and I just shouldn't have done that. I should have nurtured my heart and actually just allowed myself to hide with that pain. You
gotta live it, you gotta love it. Testimony goes on and on and on. It's magnetic, it's prophetic, it's God's stories being told.
Hey, welcome back to the Jesus Magnet podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and today we have Jenna with us. How you doing, Jenna?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm really keen to hear what God's done in your life. And let's just start with that. Where did God sort of come into your life, and how long have you been following Christ?
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much for having me. I grew up in a Christian family, so for me, church on a Sunday was just the norm. And although I wouldn't say that I had, like when I was 4, I had this moment, or when I was 7, I think it was just always a part of my life. And my teenage years, I think, were just spent in pursuit of Jesus. I just wanted to know him, and I wanted to know him more. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, so many people get tempted these days and just sort of fall away. I'm pretty sure I can rewind my life and remember the exact moment that I decided I'm actually going to try something different than God. I can remember that day.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh no, no. No, I just wanted Jesus. I wanted more of Jesus.
That's so cool.
I was so embarrassed of my iPod at intermediate school because it was just Jesus music. Like, it was just Hillsong United and Mum's Dollar and just all of the Christian stuff. And they'd be like, "Oh, what's on your iPod?" And I was like, "Nothing. It's just a private iPod.
Just weird music.
Just me and Jesus."
Yeah.
I think I tried to deconstruct my faith, but I think it was about 3 minutes, and I was like, "Nah, it never made sense to me."
Yeah.
It never made sense to me. To walk outside of my faith and what I believe.
So when you say you walk in your faith and things like that, and you had your worship music and all that from a young age, had you developed a relationship with Christ at an early age and had kept that, maintained that?
Yeah, good question. I was in hot pursuit. Like, I really wanted to know Jesus. And so my life was flooded with church, and Monday, Tuesday was my day off, but Monday we met with the girls group, and Wednesday was youth group, Thursday was primal, Friday we went to C3 Life Church, Sunday morning was serving in church, Sunday night was church. So it really was just church. But that relational shift came when I was probably about 20, and there was a woman in our church, and she could hear the Lord's voice, and I was like, that's cool. Like, I want to hear the Lord's voice. I want to know that He's real and that He's relational, and I want that. And so I'd been listening to podcasts and sermons my whole life, and I knew that it wasn't religion, it's relationship. But it was when I was 20, and I was watching this older woman interact in this really authentic, real, conversational relationship with the Lord, that I wanted that. So I decided that I was going to hear the Lord's voice, and I got up every morning and I walked around the block in silence, for about 7 weeks. And I was like, I'm going to walk in silence every day until I hear the Lord's voice.
Yeah.
And I did that.
Wow, you're lucky all the houses and your block didn't fall down after 7 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Jericho.
Yeah, exactly. 7 times around and then 7 on the 7th
In silence.
day. Yeah, in silence, just, But I wanted to hear the Lord's voice myself. I wanted to know that he was real. And that was kind of the breakthrough for me. So I did. I walked the block for 7 weeks, and I'd get home and then I'd just start to write, and whatever came, I'd start to write down, and then I started to hear the Lord's voice, and I started to hear answers to questions, and I started to see prayers being interrupted with thoughts that weren't my own. And then I started to recognize, I think that's the voice of the Lord, and that's far too intelligent to be Jenna. So that's when it really shifted from relational, from pursuit and into this communicational, authentic, real. I talk to the Lord and it's not weird.
Yeah, definitely. I found when you're listening to God, everybody's got a different way that they sort of hear God's voice. And the way that I have recently started to break that down is why does God speak to people in different ways? It's because when we speak to each other, we don't just use our words. We don't use just our voice. That's only like 10% of our communication. There's tone of voice, there's body language, there's all these different aspects and volume and a whole lot of things that you could do, gestures, and there's only a small percentage that's actually just the audible voice of God.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we're made in the same image and likeness as God, and that's how we communicate, it would make sense that God communicates in the same way.
For sure.
So many people I run into and they can't hear the voice of God. I'm actually one of them. I cannot hear his voice.
Yeah.
I have twice.
Yeah, cool.
But it's more than that. If I'm trying to just focus on that, I might just be focusing on the 10% of the communication that God's throwing at me and missing all the rest.
Oh, for sure. And I think you can hear the Lord speaking through TV programs if you're focused. You can hear him speaking through billboards or signs or people, or he answers our questions. He answers us. He speaks to us in lots and lots of different ways. You're absolutely right. And there's that concept that the mystery of God is where my trust is proven. And so if the Lord just laid it all out in one way, then there is no mystery. There is no seek and you shall find. There's just, it's just this one way.
Yeah.
You're right. God is so relational. So how would he relate to me who has a different relational makeup than you, who is made in a different way, with different preferences or dynamics or intellect or whatever, he's going to speak to us in the way that is relational to us.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you obviously have kept your faith this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Has there been a moment in your life when you've gone, wow, God, that had to be you?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I could tell you of so many. Like, it's just crazy.
Well, let's just pick one, eh?
Okay, let's pick one. The one that comes to mind is I was with my 1-year-old, and I was walking her into the shower, and it was kind of slippery. And the way that she fell, I was holding her hand, and I moved my foot, and my foot moved under her as her head hit my foot rather than the concrete. And it was just this moment where I was like, the Lord just saved you. Like, your life was just saved. And I think the only reason I could acknowledge that that the Lord had stepped in at that moment was because I was in relationship with him. Because for so many people, that simple thing would just be like, my foot was in the right place at the right time. But when you acknowledge God in all things, you can see his hand in all things. So
Absolutely.
Random example, but it was really profound for me. Because the Lord is with me as I mother and care for my children as much as he is with me when I'm sitting in podcasts and talking about Roman concept.
Come on.
Yeah, that's good.
I had somebody mention to me about a sort of fertility miracle
Oh, for me?
for you,
Yeah.
and also people you know that you pray for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we started trying for our babies in 2015, maybe 2016. And we thought it would be fairly simple, as I think a lot of people do. And it was really tough. I'd had a couple of surgeries, and after each surgery we thought, oh yeah, this will be the answer. This will be the thing, the reason. And it just didn't happen for a long time. And I remember just crying out to the Lord and saying, like, what do I have to do? Like, where do I go to from here? Like, I'll do anything to have a baby. And I just felt him say, Jenna, would you be willing to have a testimony? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm all in when it comes to Jesus. Like, I'm keen. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. I should have just said, no, I just want my baby and I want it right now.
It's like praying for patience.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
You get a real annoying person show up in your life.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, wow. Interesting. Anyway,
Have you prayed for that recently?
yeah. And
Did somebody come to mind, Jenna?
yes, I'm feeling like maybe the Lord is answering that prayer in a really weird way. Anyway, be very careful what you pray for, because
Absolutely.
the Lord answers it in just crazy ways. Yeah, and so I think after 27 no's, that's what I called it, was 27 no's, we fell pregnant, and we lost that baby within a couple of weeks. And it just sucked, man. It was just the worst thing. But
Sorry, what do you mean by a no?
Oh, right. So like every month
You're not pregnant.
is a no. Like
Yeah.
every month there's another no.
Yeah.
And I wrote a blog and I called it 27 no's, because it was 27 no's. I got to the point where I wanted to go public with our fertility story, because people say and do things that are really hurtful and really hard. And I think I just wanted people to know where we were at, because people kept asking us, being in the church context, when are you having children? I remember walking out of a boardroom and 4 out of the 5 women were pregnant, and someone turned to me and said, come on, Jenna. And I was like, if only you knew. And so, yes, I called it 27 no's, and I put it out there. And, just told our story from burst ovarian cysts to surgeries to waiting and just all of the stuff. And then, we fell pregnant. And then within a couple of weeks, we lost that baby. And the closeness of God in that was just crazy. Like the pain and then the comfort. You can't have the comfort without the pain, but the comfort of the Lord was just so powerful.
Yeah.
I guess it was also our first moment of hope, because up until then there was just no conception, and so we didn't even know what was really going on. And then so a couple of months later, I think it was 31 no's at that point, we fell pregnant with what is now our 3.5-year-old. That was really exciting. I knew that was a keeper. I knew that baby was going to stick. I just knew that baby was going to stick.
And did you fall pregnant? I hope you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, go.
But naturally?
Yeah, praise Jesus.
Wonderful.
Yeah, cool. So we fell pregnant with Indy Thea, and
I actually argue that. You didn't fall pregnant naturally. Supernaturally.
yeah, amen. I love that. So the miracle of Indy Thea was that Ash's granddad was dying, and he had been given 2 years to live. He'd been given a couple of months to live, but he'd outlived his end date by a couple of years. And in the last weeks of my pregnancy with Indy, that was sort of it. He was really on his way out. And I was crying out to the Lord, and I was like, please, this baby has to come. She has to come so that she can meet Ash's granddad. Like, we're so close, and this was his first great-grandchild. And the Lord said to me, Jenna, if the baby arrives, if I promise you that he will meet the baby, does it matter when she arrives? And I was like, well, I guess not. And so I left it to the Lord and got comfortable with being pregnant for the last couple of weeks. I think I was just begging the Lord to, like, please get rid of this baby out of me, not rid of it. That's the wrong word. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to have the baby now. But anyway, she was born, and the nurse that was on that day was a family friend, and she helped Ash smuggle the baby out of the hospital. You're not allowed to do that. And so she smuggled the baby out of the hospital.
Smuggled a baby? Yeah. I talked to a lot of people that have smuggled Bibles into places, but not babies.
It's a different one. So Ash smuggled the baby, took her up to meet Pa, and 20 hours later he died. So that was the timing of God, you know. He had a plan.
That for sure has to be God.
Yeah.
You know, what that timing's too close.
Yeah, it is. And we could have had a baby 2 years earlier, you know, but his timing was that she would be the passing of the baton for that family, and for that spiritual, I guess, inheritance is what we felt. So that was crazy. That was just such a crazy time. And then over the next year and a half of Indy's life, I was pretty sick. I think by the time she was 1, I'd had 4 surgeries. I was so thin because I was just so unwell. And I went to the doctor and I was like, something's wrong, something is not right here. They did a bunch of tests, and they diagnosed me with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, premature ovarian failure, and they said there were no eggs. So that was it, you know, like there would be no more children. And I just cried for 6 weeks. I just cried. I just sobbed. I was absolutely devastated, and I was so confused because I felt the Lord had promised me a son. And I had my daughter, and the doctor said there would be nothing left. But more to that, you know, I was 29 and diagnosed with premature ovarian failure, which that's a nice way of saying menopause. So to be 29 and in menopause, that's tough, man. And I felt I identified with the women of the Bible who, you know, who were crying out to the Lord for their barrenness, and they just desperately, you know, Hannah just desperately wanted a baby. And I'd been really open with my health struggles to that point. But this was so different. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I didn't want it to be real. I didn't want to be dealing with this. I just wanted to hide. And I actually should have hidden. Like, we went away on a family holiday with everyone, and I just shouldn't have done that. I should have nurtured my heart and actually just allowed myself to hide with that pain. Because of the diagnosis that I had, and it was in December, it's December 16th, so that's really close to all of the fertility clinics shutting, but because of the diagnosis that I had, they wanted to rush us through and do a cycle to try to see if there were any eggs, could they get any eggs. I just wrestled with that. I was like, well, Sarah didn't have IVF, so, like, can I have IVF? Is the Lord okay with that? Like, does he work within it? Does he work outside of it? Like, am I playing the hand of God, or is this the Lord, like, working with the people that he's created and their brilliance to bring about babies? Like, I don't know what the rules are here. You know?
It's a question I think a lot of people struggling with kids have. Yeah. You know, am I stepping in where God should be stepping in? Yeah. You know, is this me losing faith? You know, and it's, what do you say to that?
Oh, I don't know. I actually don't know. I think one of my friends, she said to me, Jenna, if you don't try, you will regret not trying. So I think in one sense I had, I guess for me it felt like I was admitting defeat and being like, okay, well, I guess I'll give it a go. But anyway, so I cried for 6 weeks. I was just absolutely gutted. And I decided that I'd try. I would try for a cycle. But I was really wrestling with that, and I just was crying out to the Lord at the same time, please deliver me, please. And I was, like I said, struggling, but let's not focus on that, hey? So I convinced my husband to let me go on a retreat for a week. I just want to go away for a week. I want to get some of my, just do a detox and get healthy and well, and just have a rest and just breathe and process by myself. And I went on one of those, super nourishing retreats where they feed you. You don't have to think about any of your food or anything like that, and there's massages and all that sort of stuff. So I went away for a week, and I prayed, and I read my Bible, and I just spent time with the Lord. And I came home, and I think we were 10 days out from starting our IVF cycle. And I remember it was about 11 p.m. at night, and I just went and sat in the spa outside, and I just looked up at the stars, and I just said to the Lord, I said, you said that you would set a table for me in front of my enemy. And I was like, this is my enemy, set the table. And I woke up the next day and wasn't feeling great. And I said to my husband, I want KFC. And he looked at me like, I've just spent a lot of time and effort and money on you doing a retreat to get healthy for this IVF cycle. So what do you mean you want KFC? And I was like, KFC now. And he was like, okay. And so he went and he got the KFC, and he came home, and he was just kind of looking at me. And I went and had a nap, and then I woke up and I was like, I need Thai food. And he was like, okay, hang on. This is what are you doing? I think he assumed that I was just imploding, can't cope, just comfort eating. And I was like, Thai food now. And so we went and we got Thai food, and we were driving back down the driveway, and I was like, I'm going to be sick. And I realised I'd need to go to the doctor the next day and figure out what was wrong. So I may as well take a pregnancy test, because that's the first thing that they'll ask. And I was pregnant.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Before you had the cycle.
Yeah, before I had the cycle. The day after. So I claim immaculate conception, because I was sitting in that spa saying, I'm kidding, by the way, that's a joke. It's quite warm in here. Because the day before I was in the spa, and I was like, no, the scripture, the word of the Lord says, you will set a table for me, and I am going to eat from the table of the Lord today. And the next day is when we found out that I was pregnant. So
come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, the kindness of God in that situation.
So. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And
so
I
had a son.
No, I have another daughter. So there's got to be a son.
God promised you a son.
There's still got to be a son. And that's the thing, I went to the doctor the next day or within that week, and I was like, Dr. Miller, I'm pregnant. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. He's like, it's not possible.
We weren't in your face, I'm pregnant. I mean, no. I would have been like that.
I was just like. No,
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I respect all the doctors that are listening to this right now. You guys do an amazing job.
Yeah, but also Jesus and God and miracles. And he was just jaw to the floor. He was asking the strangest questions. I was like, Dr. Miller, this is really inappropriate. This is just, But by the end of the conversation, he said to me, Jenna, I have never in my 22 years or however many years, not one of my patients has had a baby naturally. Not one of my patients with your diagnoses has ever had a baby. So this is just insane.
Come
and I was
on.
like, well, I believe in a miracle working God, and this is my miracle. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was that. And then we went for the scan, and I was like, this is it, we're having a boy, as you brought up before. And it was a girl, and I was like, what? And I just looked at Ash, I was like, that means there's another baby. He was like, no, I'm done at 2. I was done at 1. The second one is anyway, I'm come back for that part of the testimony, because I'm still expecting and hoping that there will be a son for us. Even though, I went to the doctor last week. They did a bunch of tests, and they said to me, oh, look, if you want to have any more babies, then you should really consider doing an IVF cycle. And I was like, no, I'm good. I've got this. God's got this. I'm just trusting him. So
that's amazing.
That's where we're at with that one. So.
Okay. All right. So before we go into the amazing people that you've prayed for.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I want to ask a couple of questions.
Go on.
I've got written down here. Did knowing that you weren't able to have kids according to the doctors and things like that. How did that affect your faith in Christ? I know because you'd mentioned that you went and cried for 6 weeks and things like that. But how were you spiritually with your relationship with Christ?
I think I've walked through so much with him. I don't know how to walk without him. And I don't mean that to be arrogant or, up myself, but I pray persistently.
It's a beautiful quote. I've walked so far with him or so long with him, I don't know how to walk without him.
Yeah, I genuinely don't. I remember my friend making fun of me because I pray for my parking, and I was like, why is that funny? The Lord literally, get this to blow your mind.
We do that, yep.
Get this to blow your mind. The Lord knows before you were born every parking spot you'd ever need. He literally knows every single need that you will ever have. And I love it. My best friend's non-Christian, and she thinks she's going to last on that one for a while. Anyway, I will pray for the parking, and I'll get the parking, and it annoys her so much. She's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, how do you not do that?
That's
and
so
I think
cool.
that's the point. I have walked with the Lord through so much that I don't know how to walk without him. So in those 6 weeks, I was wrestling with him, and I was telling him that I wasn't very happy about it. But, I have said yes to the Lord. You have my yes. And regardless of what happens or how this works out, you have my yes. And one of the things that I will often say is...
So you were not angry with God?
No. Oh, yeah, this is what I say to the Lord is, I don't know why you are asking me to do this, but I am willing, so... So in that, I'm like, okay, Lord, you are asking me to do this. This isn't a journey that I want to walk. I don't want to walk being ill, but this is what you're asking of me, and so I will do it as best I can faithfully.
That's so good.
Yeah. It's easier after the fact, at the time there was definitely I'm a little bit angry with you right now, Lord, and I don't really know why this is happening, and I wish it was different, but I'm going to trust you and I'm going to lean into you. And also this is really hard and I'm really angry, but I'm going to trust you and I'm going to lean into you. So it's that tension, it's that pulling through. But I try when a situation is difficult to say, okay, Lord, why are you asking this of me, and how can I walk this faithfully? And it was the same with that. So yeah.
That's so good. For people that are trying to get pregnant,
yes,
what would you suggest for them listening to this podcast and they're going, this is amazing, I want this miracle?
Yeah.
What's a practical thing that you did? And it might be going away on the retreat, spending a lot more time with God, making sure your heart's right. Yeah.
So one of the things that I did is one of my close friends has 6 children. So I was like, she's obviously figured it out. So I just asked that she would pray for me. I went to her and I said, look, the Lord has obviously blessed you with children. Would you pray that blessing over me? And she did. And still it was 2 years before I fell pregnant. But I believed in just having faith to ask for the mercy of God on her to be on me too. So find someone that has lots of children and ask them to pray for you.
Wow.
Repentance, I try my very best to live a life of repentance. So we did a bunch of prayers. We did a bunch of generational prayers. If there's anything in our family line, if there's anything that I've done or that my husband's done, we just repent. We bring it before you, Lord. We pray that you'd make us clean and make us holy and righteous before you. And I tried to live that lifestyle. So we did a big, prayed 250 prayers type thing. But then on the daily or even moment by moment when I sin or when I mess up or when I, lose my patience, I just say, oh, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And so just walking in right standing with the Lord. I don't think there's a script. If I do this, then I will have
just
just in general.
Something practical.
Just in general, just keeping close to the Lord is really good for the soul. It's good for the heart. And then I did other things as well. I went and saw a nutritionist and I got a bunch of supplements. So increased zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, B12.
You're being wise over your body as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just
for sure.
I'm going to pray and do nothing. I'm going to
for sure.
treat my body as a temple and know that it's going to be ready for when I am
for
pregnant.
For sure. And also minimizing the stress in my life. We decided that I wasn't going to teach that year because we could. We were really fortunate that we could.
So you're a school teacher?
Yes. Yeah, trained teacher.
Awesome.
Yes.
Primary, high school?
Primary.
Awesome.
Yeah, so primary through intermediate. So we took the year off so that I could be at peace and be in good rhythms. Yeah, looking after yourself. And then just, the other thing I did was I just read all the Bible stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, she got pregnant, she had a baby, that didn't work out. And I was just like, that's in the Bible, I believe it, so I'm walking in that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, I would just talk to the Lord, just having those conversations.
So let's flip it a little bit. Advice for people knowing people whom are trying to get pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
How to act, what questions to say, do they encourage them, how do they go down that track? And, because remember when you said earlier, you went into church, there were 5 ladies and they all were pregnant, then one of them turned around and said, when are you pregnant, Jenna? When's it coming? What are things to, I guess, wisely discuss or let them know that you're praying or things like that?
I think just grace upon grace to each person in the situation. Having been through that, I still catch myself saying, are you guys planning to have kids? Because it's natural, because you're excited and you're interested in that person's life. When are you getting married? Is there a baby? Are you going to have another baby? And so I would be really angry at those people because I was like, oh, you're just causing me pain. But that was not their heart's intent. That was not their position. So in time and with retrospect, I've gone back and gone, actually, those people weren't intending to hurt me. And so I forgive them, but I also forgive myself for, kind of being a little bit angry about something that probably didn't need to be angry. If you know that someone is struggling, I think prayer is really precious. I would also say let them bring it up. Let them talk about it in their own time. Like I said with my testimony, I had this really tough diagnosis, and because I'd been so open with my journey to that point, people felt that they could share about my journey on my behalf, but this was really different, and the pain was really different, and I felt like people were talking about me behind my back, and people knew things and I hadn't spoken to them. So someone had told them of the update in my bad news schedule or whatever you want to call it. So I think let them bring it up. If you know that someone's had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage and you're pregnant, just be so gracious to them. If they cannot celebrate with you, just grace upon grace to them. It is such a painful thing. And when you are required to celebrate someone else's joy in the midst of your own pain, the Lord can give you the strength to do that, but don't require that of someone. If you are pregnant or if you have children and you're walking with someone who is battling with that, just let them do it as best they can and just love them as best they can. When we miscarried, my mother-in-law sent a blanket, and it was the kindest gift on the planet. I did not want another bunch of flowers. I wanted those flowers to be out of my house. I didn't want them to be here. I didn't want anything to do with them, but that blanket, I could hide in that blanket, and I could just cover myself in it, and I could just snuggle away. And so send them a blanket, send them something that is really practical and loving. And It's such a tough one, because at the same time, I've never been one to shy away from just the reality of people's lives. So if someone is going through that and they're struggling, I would say, and if I knew if they'd invited me in, I would encourage them and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm still praying for you and I'm still believing for you, and I'm here for you. Side note a little bit, whether it fits or not, but a friend of mine, her dad died, and she was going through just such a tough time, obviously, because her dad's died. And I only saw her about a month later, after the funeral and stuff like that. And I said to her, hey, how are you going? Like, this is so tough. And she burst into tears, and she was like, you're the first person to ask me. So everyone was just avoiding the toughness and the difficulty of that situation. So I guess it's about knowing the balance between being authentic and honest and loving and kind and gracious to that person, and then also like not ignoring it, but like letting them bring it up and letting them have their time and space.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that a bit higgledy-piggledy?
That's a really good answer. Honestly, yeah, beautiful answer. Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about these, I guess, mini testimonies, if you want to put it on?
Oh, yeah, my list.
Your list.
Yeah.
The miracle list.
Yeah. So I have a list in the back of my book, and if I hear about anyone that's struggling to have a baby, I just write their name down on my list, and I just pray. Like it's kind of lazy in some ways, but it's faithful in others, right? It just says at the top of the list, like, I pray that these people would fall pregnant, and then I just write their name. Sometimes I go back and like pray more about it, but I feel like that's enough, right? Like I'm just praying. And so on my list, I think at the moment there's only 2 people who haven't fallen pregnant. Out
of how many?
On my list at the moment, I say that. Oh, like the whole list? Oh, yeah. So as someone falls pregnant, I tick it off. So I think there's about 27 people on my list. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And yourself too. Twice.
Oh, yeah. I guess I get to be on that list too. And my name's also still on the list because I'm not like finished. I want to have more babies.
Yes.
So my name is still on the list. But
you got to do a tick for each child.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So if they're still trying, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and it's super random. Like I said, like I live a life of prayer. So like I was on some news article and it popped up that this baker in California was struggling to have babies. I was like, on the list she goes. So like I don't even know her, but I'm praying for her because yeah, it's kind of that same thing, you know, like I had my friend pray for me because the blessing of the Lord is on her. And so it's the same for me, like the miracle of God to have babies is on me. And so I pray for that for the people who
that's so cool.
do and don't know. So
wow, I think that's fantastic. Did you want to share anything else in your life that's happened before we end up wrapping up?
I think for me, like the big thing is that daily walk with the Lord is everything. It's everything. And when we live in communication with Jesus, we can see miracles and testimonies all day, every day. And, you know, for example, on Sunday, a week or 2 ago, I was super tired. We'd had 5 nights of no sleep, and I just lost my patience with my 3-year-old, and I kind of grumped at her, and I just felt so stink about it, and I just felt so gutted, and I was really impacted by that, and kind of went around the rest of the day moping, and my husband was like, oh, just get over it, like just it's not that big a deal. And I was like, no, it is a big deal, like I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to treat her like that. And I went to bed that night and I opened up my Bible and I started reading, and there it was, that God's anger lasts for a moment, but his love is enduring. And it just set me free, because I was like, yeah, I was angry for a moment with my toddler, but my love for her is enduring. It's all day, every day. It's far bigger than that moment of frustration. And so when we live in relationship, when we live in communication, in prayer, when we read the scriptures often, he is speaking, and he is real, and he is relational, and he will meet you wherever you are. So often we don't see the hand of God because we're not actually living in it or looking for it. So.
That's so good. I actually do have one last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you have practical steps that you and your partner have done for each other when you guys are trying? Because it's hard for both.
Yeah.
You know, how do you support each other practically in that sense?
Yeah. Husband. It's my husband. So I think that's actually a really good point. When Indy Thea was born and Ash's granddad died, he was in the hospital room and he was sobbing, and I was like, oh, this is really tough for you. And I was like, are you okay? And he said, oh, it's just such a strange thing, because Pa and Elliot are together, which is what we'd named our first baby. And I didn't realise that I wasn't even thinking about the babies that we'd lost, but here my husband was wrestling with life and death and the birth of his first daughter and the loss of his son and his granddad, and he was actually carrying the weight of that miscarriage far greater than I realised. So I think often for women it's so tough, but for men it's almost like they just have to be the hero and they're not suffering in the same way. And so I think for me, I learnt the importance of talking it out and recognising that it's not just me struggling, it's us struggling. And the male in this situation, I think, is often forgotten. When we miscarried, Ash did not get out of bed for 3 days. And I was like, this is so weird, because I didn't think it was his loss as much as it was mine, but it really was. It was our loss. So that, doesn't answer the question, but it does just recognise that the fertility journey for men is really, really tough. And especially watching their wives, the one that they love, carry the burden or the pain or the medical diagnosis or whatever. But they carry a lot too. Ash had to sit through a lot of surgeries. He had to take me to the hospital a lot of times and sit with me and wonder what was happening and stuff like that. So I don't think that answers the question, but I think it is super important to...
It's good to recognise
that
it affects the men as well.
It so does.
Because it's sort of, it would affect your manlyhood as well. Like I wouldn't feel like a man if I can't get my wife pregnant sort of thing, like that sort of mentality.
Yeah.
And praying together and seeking the Lord and just keeping God at the centre of it, knowing that he can get past any of that.
Absolutely. Practical stuff. I don't know. I think just remembering that and acknowledging that is super important. We talked about it a lot. But I just think, acknowledging them and realising that this is a joint journey. I think for us it was tough because it was very clearly a Jenna issue, not an Ash issue. So I was carrying the weight of this is my fault. I keep losing the baby and or whatever. I'm the one who has all the cysts and all of the medical problem. But he was carrying that just as much as I was. Yeah. And so but prayer, people who can support you and love you. This is a good point. We journeyed on our own for over a year. And eventually we thought, no, we should actually just let our parents know. They were so, so supportive and so loving, and that was a real surprise. I know that sounds really silly. I guess we had to let go of the whole, we wanted to be pregnant and then tell everyone and it's a big surprise, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting, because we didn't want to tell anyone because we wanted, the big Instagram moment or that big, exciting telling. So we had to let go of that and then let people in with this is what we're going through, and this is why I'm a little bit cranky and why I don't really want to come to dinner on Friday night or whatever it was. So I think at some point it's find people who you can journey that with really closely and really carefully with prayer always.
Jenna, I think your story is one that it supercharges so many people's faith.
I hope
it really does. And I know that people are going to be listening and they're going to be going, I actually haven't put God at the centre of my prayer life when this is the biggest mountain I've ever climbed, and I'm trying to climb it myself. What am I doing? I need to put God and say, Lord, I can't do this without you. And I just think it's amazing. You've also walked the walk, This is what I did with God, and I am supernaturally pregnant twice. That's pretty awesome. And then to the next step, I got this list of, I don't know how many again, but so many women that have gotten pregnant from just prayer. And I just think you're an amazing person, Jenna, and thank you for sharing your testimony with us. Awesome. It's going to reach the right ears. It's going to really affect people in a good way for the Lord.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think that's amazing.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Jesus Magnet Podcast. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you connect with us. Find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and if you want to support us, be a member of our coffee club, Jesus Magnet Coffee Club. See you next time on the Jesus Magnet.